Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 95, Resiliency Through the Holidays, Part 2. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
This is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. Hello and welcome back. Last week I said, buckle up, here they come, and I mean it. When I'm talking about holidays, you just need to buckle up. And I was reading an article, I don't know, it was last week, maybe the week before, but it was talking about how holidays are getting kind of interesting for families that get together because of the conflicts that we've experienced. There are people who, it's like brothers, sisters, children, parents who are really on different sides of I don't know what else they call it, the political arenas. And, I remember when I was young, there was this kind of unspoken rule that we don't talk politics or religion when we get together. Now, we didn't talk politics when we got together when I was young. We had, it's like I said before, my grandfather was the mayor, and, my great uncle was a mayor, and so, but not everybody was the same party. I just never heard anybody talk about politics when I was young at any family gathering. We did talk religion because we were all Mormons, all of us. So, one time, one of my mother's cousins, so that'd be one removed from me, older person, obviously, she had married someone outside of the Mormon religion, and there was a murmuring around that. But, when I saw the guy, it's like everybody welcomed him with open arms. So it might have been behind the scenes, but when we got together, we did not have fights. We didn't. Well, part of that was, I think now that I'm older and I've been around a while, part of that was, we didn't have people drinking. People didn't drink alcohol. If you didn't know that, Mormons don't drink alcohol. And so, we'd have these big, amazing dinners with lots and lots of people, and nobody drank alcohol, and everybody who had conflicting beliefs, and there weren't very many, but there were some, would just be quiet. And not, it's like, this isn't the time or place. When I got in college, I had some different beliefs. I started having my beliefs got a little bit different. And when I had, when I'd go to Thanksgiving or Christmas, like, I just focused on the family. And I think that's what I'm going to talk about today. Resilient people are able to understand and accept, not just accept, sometimes embrace the fact that we don't all think the same way. We all don't have the same beliefs. And we, those of us who are resilient, we welcome that because we understand that if we all had the same beliefs, if we all had the same reality, that would be really weird. I mean, like in China, if you don't have the same belief as everyone else and who, their top government tells you to have, you might disappear. I'll bet they don't even have pillow talk because they don't know who's listening and what's going to happen to them. But we live in a country where we all we're a mixture of people. We have all kinds of religions. We have all kinds of beliefs. We have all kinds of philosophies. We have all kinds of people getting together and getting married. We have all kinds of differences. And it is a challenge for us to embrace that. If you can embrace it, good for you. You're probably about the most resilient of all. If you can just accept it, even if you don't like it, that's resilient too. But if you don't like it, then it leaves a bad feeling. And resilience is not about being happy and joyful 24/7. That would be called having a lobotomy, which we don't do really anymore. But it means that at least you're not fighting. It's on you. You're the one that has the issue. Okay? So when we are going to celebrate these holidays with family of origin, it creates another level of discomfort for most people. I've said before, because, I've had conversations with you and discussions with you before about family of origin. I've spent an enormous amount of time talking about family of origin. And if you come from a family that was less nurturing, you probably even feel more compelled to spend holidays with your family of origin than if you came from a family that was more functional and more loving and gave you guidance and direction. Now, there's no such thing. I don't even know what a perfect family looks like. I have no clue. I don't think anybody knows. Norman Rockwell might have gotten close, but that's a fantasy. But if you came from a family where you were abandoned, abused, and are neglected, and you probably feel compelled to go back. And the reason for that is that human beings, get triggered during holidays. Okay? Part of the trigger is the expectation, here it is again, the expectation that this time we're going to have that magic. Okay? We're going to be able to sit down, talk about Thanksgiving now. We're all going to be sitting down around the table. Everybody's going to be talking about what they're thankful for. They might be watching football together or a movie together, or they might be playing football out on the lawn before dinner. We have these images, most of which have been kind of manipulated into our thinking to try and get us to buy things mostly. But the family getting together is not part of that. It's been the way it's been from the first Thanksgiving, which I don't even know what that was about, but we have an idea. But Thanksgiving, just think about what that word is. Thanksgiving. It's about giving thanks. Now, if you came from a family of origin that was abusive, abandoning, or neglecting, as a child, it was very hard to feel thankful for that. And maybe you tried really hard to be thankful by praying and asking for it to be different. Or maybe you tried really hard to be better or perfect. And maybe if you got it right or perfect enough, then it would be different. And you could give thanks for that. Or maybe you grew up in a family where, your religion said, we will be we'll be thankful for these things, regardless of what's really going on in your family. But like I've said before, people have a tendency to return to the scene of the crime. And it's a crime to hurt children, okay? For the holidays. The people who were abused, abandoned, neglected are the ones who return to the scene of the crime, where it happened, who did it. It's like, say you were physically abused as a child, and let's say your mother was the one that did it. You come trundling home, your wounded child is leading you in the door, thinking this time, and I've heard it over and over again. Okay, I've succeeded in life. I have my own children now. They're all dressed up, ready to see Grandma and Grandpa. We come in the door, mother's drunk, turkey's burning. And I somehow think that it's going to be different this year. You see, that expectation that if I only do it right, if I only present in the most perfect way possible, things will be different. That's childlike thinking. It's the same child that was living in that family as a child, as a young child, like a baby or a young child or even a teenager, where the abuse was happening or the abandonment was happening or the neglecting was happening, where children always think it's their fault. Always think it's their fault. And that if they just be better, do better, that those people will stop that and start loving them and treating them nicely and giving them what they want or need. It didn't happen then. It's not going to happen now. There is no way that you are ever going to change those people. Think about that for a minute. Is there anyone in the world that can really change you? You're the only one that can do that. So when y'all go trundling back to the scene of the crime and think that somehow it's going to be different, I just want to remind you that it isn't going to be different. I mean, it might not, it's not going to be the exact same thing. Maybe there won't be as many people. Maybe somebody died. I mean, we just are still in a pandemic. People might be sick. Maybe somebody didn't show up because they have the flu. It's not going to be exact. But you need to evaluate, what is my expectation and why am I going there on my day off? And hey, by the way, Thanksgiving, you might have a 4-day weekend. You might have 4 days off. Okay? So here I am with my 4 days off, and I'm going to go back to the scene of the crime and hope that somehow this time they're going to love me unconditionally. Mom won't get drunk, Dad won't get drunk, whatever. Aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, they're all grown up now, so maybe everyone will behave in a way that is loving and caring, and we can finally have that family get-together that I've been wanting for so long. What I would say to you is that if you want to have that family gathering, that where people sit around and actually are thankful and talk about what they're thankful for and accept and love each other for who they are, it might not be at your family of origin's house, okay? You might have to create that yourself. Now, the first time I realized this, I had been invited to a friend's house. I was young. I was in college. And, I was thinking about that, okay, I'm going to go back to my parents or my grandma's or wherever everybody got together, and it's going to be different. And a friend of mine invited me to her house, and she said, hey, a group of us are getting together and we're going to have a Thanksgiving for our friends who really care about each other and love each other. Please come. Why don't you come? Now, at the time, I only lived about, 40 miles from where my family was meeting. And so I said, like so many times people do, well, let me see. What time are you having dinner? Oh, we're having it about 5. And I thought, we always have it at 3. So I said, hey, I'll be there. And in my mind, I'll go over to the real Thanksgiving at my family, and then I'll go over to the friends. So I went over to the real Thanksgiving, and oh my God, it was just, we don't even drink in this family. But I'll tell you what, there's some craziness going on there and some nastiness going on there. And by then, people weren't happy to see me anyway, because I was already a pariah, a black sheep, whatever you want to call it. And so even though I belong to them, whether they like it or not, and they belong to me, and I'm grateful for that today, I went over thinking that, this is the real Thanksgiving, and then I'll go over to my friend's house. Went over to the real Thanksgiving, sat down, pretty much, there's this thing sometimes that I know Mormon families do, is that they don't like you. That they wish that you would just die. Yet they smile and say, oh, God, I'm so happy to see you. And it's fake. And in fact, that they don't like you. It's not even that. It's not even fake like, I'm smiling fakely. It's like really creepy, weird. So that happened. And so I left early like I always did. And I thought, I'll go over to the friends early, because she said they were all gathering in the afternoon. They would have dinner at 5. So I went over to my friends thinking that, another Thanksgiving busted. And I walked in, and there was this warm, wonderful, people were talking and laughing and smiling, and it was real. And they literally were so happy to see me. I mean, people got up and came over and hugged me and said, gee, we're really glad you came. And I didn't, my friend said, I didn't know if you'd come because I knew you were going over to your families, and I figured you'd stay there. And I'm thinking, probably not. Not going to stay there today. So, as a result, we had a nice dinner. No stomach problems that go along with trying to eat when people hate you and wish you'd, go away. And it was lovely. It was warm. It was wonderful. I didn't want the day to end. Of course it did. But it really drove home to me, even at a young age, that now that's real Thanksgiving. People are really loving and warm and kind, and to me as well as each other. What a wonderful thing. And so I thought, it took me a while longer to really put all that into my mind. But I finally realized that, hey, I don't need to go back to the scene of the crime for Thanksgiving. And in fact, there were years that I didn't go there. And when I did go, it was because, first of all, the first time I went, it was because I had a little boy, my little son, who wanted to see his cousins. And, and I knew it was important. So we went and had Thanksgiving. But you know what? We had Thanksgiving at my family of origin, went back to the scene of the crime. I knew that they would all be exactly the way they were. I knew they'd love my son because, they do love him. He's a bit of a novelty in the family, but they love him, and he is absolutely wonderful and lovable. So we went back, but here's the deal. We stayed at a friend's house. I drove us there, and I drove us home, so we had a car. So that when we went to dinner, and if it got weird, because, my father was still living and so was my mother. My mother's not weird. But when my father would get weird and start being nasty, or, someone else who was like not liking me very much, they would start getting nasty and just make comments and make it be uncomfortable. And, I'd say, okay, time to go. And, by then he was probably exhausted. So we go back to my friend's house and stay, and we'd have a lovely time. But, there were only a few times that I actually stayed at my parents' house when I went to visit. Because here's the deal. They belong to you, those people. It doesn't make them bad. I'm just talking about how to take care of yourself at holiday time. You recognize that this holiday time is your time. It's your time to have time off. It's your time to really think about what you're grateful for. It's your time to be with people who love you, who care about you. And if you feel some kind of compulsion to go have that be with, your family of origin, and if they've been abusive to you, you have to recognize that it isn't going to change. Even if you are, a war hero, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or a producer, or a celebrity. You can be as big, as important, and as accomplished as you can be. And when you step back into that system, the system starts to function the way it always did. Now, people might be a little less overt about it, but you feel it, you sense it. So what I say is that if you must do this, and I know that people get there, I have done it myself. Don't stay there where it was abusive, or whether people are drinking, getting drunk, out of control. Don't do that. Don't stay there. If you got to stay at a hotel and then just go have dinner or spend time with people, maybe you want to spend time with different relatives that you feel close to. It's like it gives you an opportunity to just go do it without having to say, oh, yeah, well, Mom, Dad, I know I said I was going to come and stay, but I really want to go visit blah, blah. And then you have conflict all over again. Stay somewhere else and make sure you have your own transportation. That's how you do it, honest. If you must stay there the whole time, just prepare yourself. It's going to be rough stuff. And if you have an A+ in boundaries, you might be able to manage it, but that means you're going to be thinking about your boundaries a lot of the time. And those boundaries go something like, what they think and feel about me is none of my business. And you are at the scene of the crime. Your wounded child ego state, your adapted child ego state wants them to love you so much. And you love them unconditionally. You can't help it. You're their kid. But if those children that live inside of you is in charge of this, you're just going to be miserable again. So if you've got those kind of boundaries where you can sit and deal with the trauma of eating dinner with your primary offenders, and do that without feeling miserable, it's like you've got that in your brain, what they think about me, none of my business. What they think and feel about me, not my business. My business And this is where that whole resilience goes. If I'm really resilient, I walk in, whatever they're doing, not my business. I sit down, I have dinner, I keep my conversation light. I don't engage in any kind of emotional rhetoric. I say, lovely dinner. Could I bring something? Whatever. And then I'm done. And then I get up. I take care of myself. If I start feeling bad, I go walk around the block. I just think even if you're going to stay at their house, make sure you have your own transportation, because you could always say, gosh, I've told so-and-so I'd meet him for coffee. And, they might get a glare as you walk out. But remember, if you have a boundary, what they think and feel about me, not my business. My business is to take care of myself and make sure I'm not offending anybody. And by that, I mean, it's like whether they feel offended or not, that's their thing, unless I know I've done something offensive, I've mentioned this before, too. It's like, if I'm sober and I'm thinking about it, I know when I'm being offensive. So if somebody says, well, when you did that, it offended me. It's like, in my mind, I'm going, well, you're offending. You're feeling offended by my behavior when it's not an offensive behavior. It's really about you, and I'm not going to take that on. Now, am I going to say that out loud? No. It's called a boundary. If somebody says, oh, that's so offensive, I say, well, I appreciate the feedback. I'll get back to you if I feel like I need to. End of story. So, I'm going to say, if you can't get away and you are in it, you have those little exercises that I told you about, how to regain yourself and practice resilience. Okay, go push on the wall. Do the colors. Walk around the room and focus on your feet. Those are ways that you can bring yourself back even if you're in the middle of it. So, I want you to think about what makes you feel good, what makes you feel resilient when you're really your best self. And if you got to go do it, take that person and make sure that your wounded child and your adapted adult child are not running the show for this holiday. And so with that, let me say this. Happy Thanksgiving. We're still managing. Okay? Name the things that you're thankful for and focus on that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.